everyone. So for this video, it's going to be all about weeds, how to identify certain weeds, how to remove them from your garden, and reasons why we do things like this. So before I show you what we're actually going to do, I want to give you guys a little bit of background knowledge about weeds and why we call them weeds and all of that. So not a lot of people know about weeds or even care. But if you are intending or already are growing any form of vegetable, fruit, herb, flowers, anything like that, it's super important to learn about weeds as well as how to remove them, because it's going to take the control of your garden and put it back into your hands. Sometimes I have seen gardens that are crazy out of control with weeds. People get overwhelmed, they don't know what to do. So today we're gonna simplify your lives and make weeding a lot easier for you. So first thing, what even is a weed? What classifies a plant as a weed, and why is it called that? Why is a weed a weed? So a weed is simply a plant growing where it is not wanted. That's pretty much it. Usually this weed is in competition with other plants that we have actually cultivated, which means planted and are now growing. So for example, if you're growing a patch of strawberries, which these are not strawberries, but let's just say these are, they're gonna start getting bigger. As they start getting bigger, you don't want them to be competing with all these other plants and flowers in the same bed. Even if it's not a weed, you don't want competition for your plants, because that's going to stop them from growing above the ground. It's going to give them less room. Under the ground, the roots aren't going to be able to stretch out and grow. So simply, weeds are not a good thing in your garden because it leads to competition between your plants. There are over 250,000 species of plants worldwide, and that's just the low end. And only about 3% of them are actually classified as weeds. So that just goes to show you, most plants are not weeds. Most plants you may just not want in your garden. You simply maybe just didn't plant that specific plant and don't want it. A weed is simply just something that's growing where you don't want it and you want to remove it. That's it. It's super simple. So 3 key things of the qualities of a weed, if you want to research this at home, or if you have some plants that you're not sure whether you want to remove it or not. If there's an abundant seed productivity with that plant, which means that the seeds are reproducing like crazy, there's thousands of seeds everywhere, you probably don't want that weed, because that means that in just a short amount of time you're gonna have tons more. So if you start seeing that there's a lot of seeds on a certain plant that you didn't grow or intend to grow, definitely yank that one out. Also, if a certain plant has a rapid population and you see it spreading like crazy everywhere, and like I said, if it's not something that you want, you should remove that. And lastly, if it has a long-term survival rate. So if a certain plant, you try and kill it because you don't want it in your garden and it keeps coming back, that's definitely a weed. You totally don't want that in your garden. So those are 3 easy ways to identify plants that you might not want, or plants that you want to keep, depending on those things. So weeds are usually come in forms of grasses, all sorts of plants. For instance, I'm going to show you one over here. So grass, in my opinion, when I'm growing vegetables and fruits, is a weed, because I don't want grass in my garden at all. I'm not eating the grass. There's no purpose of this for me in my garden. Grass spreads really, really rapidly. That's the whole point of it, why we use it on our lawns. So, for instance, this grass right here is definitely a weed. I do not want this. So all I'm gonna do is make sure there's nothing growing around it that I can see that's useful. There's not. So I'm just gonna yank it by the bottom and make sure that I get the entire root out. The key about weeding is you need to get the root out, otherwise it will just grow back very quickly. So as you can see, I'm gonna show you guys a few more. Rip from the base of the plant and try to get the entire root out. As you can see, I have done so. And now this is going to lead to less competition between our plants, more space to plant things, and just an overall healthier environment for the things that we want. If for some reason the weed is way too big, like this one's pretty big and I can't get it out with my hands, there's gardening tools for that. You can use shovels, you can use spades, you can use a hoe, you can use any type of tool that can enable you to get that root out. So that's it for this portion of the weeding video, but in a few minutes I'm gonna bring you guys to the front garden because there's a lot of different types of weeds up there. I just wanted to show you the basics of weeding here and how to remove these grasses. So thanks for watching, and I hope you watch my next video on weeding.